okay. Today's verses are Acts 2, verses 14 and 28. Just a little bit of background. Last week, they just received the Holy Spirit. The disciples were gathered together and received the Holy Spirit, and they were talking in tongues. People heard them and were astonished, but some were thinking they were drunk. So here is where Peter addresses the people that were hearing them. And so he says that we were not drunk as you think. And he goes on and talks and speaks. Verses 23 and 24 are our focus verses this week. And it says this Jesus, delivered up according to the definite plan and foreknowledge of God, you crucified and killed by the hands of lawless men. God raised him up, loosing the pangs of death, because it was not possible for him to be held by it. It's a whole lot packed into just those two little verses. But one of the things that stood out to me the most, just when I was reading through it and studying it this time, is that Jesus' death was a part of God's plan. Peter did not understand it before. Through the Gospels, they talk about, not understanding his death, not wanting him to go. But here, Peter understands it. The Jews may have pressed the Romans to kill him, but it was according to God's plan. That was God's plan all along. He'd had this plan since the first sin. And it says, but though you had him killed, he's talking to the Jews, though you had him killed, Jesus is alive now. Even death could not hold him. For the little question mark, no matter how long I've been a Christian, I cannot understand God's love for us. Like, that is still my huge question, and I don't know that it will ever completely be answered, because our human brains cannot fathom someone loving us enough to sacrifice themselves for us, to know beforehand. It says definite plan, foreknowledge of God. They knew what was going to happen. They knew how it was going to feel. But it does show, God and Jesus have an eternal perspective on everything. That day of suffering on the cross, those 3 days of death, the 33 years of hardship and, struggles of leaving his glory, Jesus knew about, but to him it was only a drop in the bucket compared to eternity. And so how does this apply to me? Is God has a plan for me. God has a plan for each of us, but I can know he has a plan for me. And he's now given me the Holy Spirit so that I can face anything, everything, suffering, hardship, pain, struggle, good things as well, but I can face it, remembering that this is only temporary. Our heaven is our eternity. That's where we'll be spending the majority of life, the majority of all time. And who can I share this with? A friend who's going through something tough, just any type of tough, difficult situation, and who may be questioning God through his purpose. We can share this with them, saying that, God has a plan for us. He knows what we're going through. He's been through even worse suffering, and we can trust in him and know that he's with us even through it. Thank you.